What's up, guys? What's going on? I'm Paul. This is Paul Theology's Daily Devotional, man, and we are on the last verse of this chapter, chapter 8. We're in chapter 8, verse 28. We got Moses' response, man. What's happening, man? Before we start, this is Trust in Jesus Ministries. We want to help you trust in Jesus by studying the scriptures, learning about him, understanding his character. The more you know someone, the more you either trust them or you don't, because you see their character and their nature come out, right? But with God, because he's perfect, because he's awesome, because he's just the master of the universe, we can trust him as we continue to know more about him, as we continue to learn more, and get to have a conversation with him through his word. We find that he is very trustworthy. One of the reasons that he is, which we're reading about, is because of his power, his sheer power, man. Everybody always wants to be on the side of the power, team power, and God has it, man. But then we're also saying that he's trustworthy or truthful, and everybody wants to be with somebody that's going to tell the truth. Now, sometimes it's hard, and that's, I think, is the case for us and our relationship with God, because he ain't going to sugarcoat it, man. He going to let you know what you should do and what you shouldn't, and sometimes that rubs people the wrong way, but that's who God is, man. And because he does that, means we can trust him, because he's going to tell us the truth. He's going to let us know. Anyway, man, all of these things we're learning from reading through Exodus. And so I'm hoping you're enjoying reading through Exodus with me and studying through Exodus. And I hope that it impacts you in such a way. If you feel like this stuff here is actually doing some kind of good for you in your life, share it with somebody. Let them know what you're reading and how you're reading it and what you're taking from it. Because a testimony to God about who he is through Scripture will maybe help someone else want to read through the Scripture and study it so that they can know more about him. Anyway, we're on the last verse. If you haven't read it, stop the tape, check it out, see what I say, come back, and we're going to answer some questions, man. If you have read it, let's start asking them questions and then answering them through his scriptures. First one is, what's going on? After this miraculous work of God through Moses, his servant, Pharaoh reneges on what he said he would do. It says his heart was heavy, he hardened his heart, or he, what do you call it? This one, it says his heart was heavy in the Hebrew. But in other places, having kind of the same meaning, it says that his heart was strengthened. And so he further resolved to do what it is he wants to do. Rather than turning and repenting, or at least being truthful about what he said he was going to do and allow the Hebrew people to leave, it says he didn't lighten the burden up. It says it got heavy. His heart got heavier. He didn't say, like, oh man, because of this, man, the burden that I want to put upon the people, or that I feel about the people, is gone. No. Nah, the burden is even more. The weight is even more. He ain't let the people go, man. He ain't let the people go. What's it say about God? I think it shows his knowledge. It shows his wisdom. And it shows his understanding of all things, because God had said this before. He told Moses that it was going to be a very strong hand that was going to be required for the Pharaoh to release the people. And so far he's been right. Pharaoh, despite all of his words, has not allowed the people of the people of God, the Hebrews, to go and worship him or to serve him. It's just God's spot on. God's spot on. What's this say about man? I think what it shows us is when we get what we want, we do what we want. When we I think we talked about this in previous episodes about foxhole prayers, sometimes saying we'll do what God says if this happens. And this has happened to him, but oftentimes I believe what Pharaoh is doing is exactly what we do, is that we renege on our promises. It's because in reality we really don't want to do these things. And so the thing we want to do, we're strengthened to, because we're not in the situation that we used to be in. We're not in the trouble or the hurt or the pain that we previously had. And so we go back to doing whatever it is that we want to do, man. And speaking about this, and we're going to talk a little bit about laws and stuff. And I have actually a video on this. I may link that up here, whatever corner it is in. But one of the reasons for law is to divert sin. You see, what Pharaoh is doing is evil towards the people of God. And because of the situation, the strikes, the plagues that God has been placing on him, he has ceased from that sinning in some kind of way. But when that law is removed, that punishment is removed, Pharaoh goes back to doing what it is that he wants to do. And that's the exact same thing that it is at this moment. At this moment. That's what people do. So how do we apply these truths to our lives? I think that we recognize the power of God and we allow that to influence our actions, And I say that in a way that says, yes, remember the law and the punishment of it, because that deters us from sin. Yes, but we must remember that God, an eternal God, has this law that completely blankets for all eternity. So let's as we live our lives, let's remember that. I don't want to scare you into walking in goodness and truth and honor, but that is a part of it. That is a part of it. And so I think that whatever you're doing right now, remember there is punishment for it. Just because you don't feel the weight of it at this moment, just because you don't sense the footsteps behind you, or that it has been relinquished or relieved from you and around you, don't think that there isn't punishment coming. Or there isn't suffering due. But I got something even more amazing, man. I think a couple episodes ago we talked about how God is gracious and he gives second chances. Well, he has second chances for us. We have relief from sin. The punishment, the weight, the power, and the penalty of sin. And that is through Jesus Christ. We're going to see later on as we continue to read this thing called the Passover, and there's some ritual and things that occurred during it, and this event that frees the people ultimately from the slavery of Pharaoh. This thing, this event is a picture of what Christ has done for us at this moment. 2,000 years ago, Jesus went to the cross and gave his life so that we might be free from the penalty of sin. That we might be free from the actions of sin. We might be free from the weight and the power of sin, not only in our own lives, but in this entire world. But it is for us to trust that what he has done has actually worked. It's for us to believe that what he says is good about our lives and how we live it is true and trustworthy. So that means that we have to trust that what Jesus has done on the cross, how God has orchestrated an event for us to be freed from this sin, works. And then we've got to follow him because we know that what he says is true. It's two things. It's called a belief and action. And I think that that's what Paul is talking about in Romans when he says it's with the heart one believes and with the mouth one confesses. And so first we believe and trust in what Jesus has done in our heart, and then we confess it with our lives every day. And if you haven't done that yet, I pray that you will. If you want to know more about how you can do that, maybe I didn't explain it well enough, man, put it in the comments, let me know so that I can do a better job. But if you've already done this, man, let's do it every day, because I think that when Paul says that with the one heart believes and with the mouth confesses, this is an everyday thing. Just as I say on Trust in Jesus Ministries that I want you to trust in him more every day, that is what this is all about. Reading these scriptures, understanding who he is, so that as we see his goodness and his awesomeness, that we can walk in it every day. Not going back to, as Pharaoh said, with his heart heavy, that he ain't letting the people go, but recognizing how good that God was in his relinquishing of our debt for sin through his son Jesus, and that we would walk with him forever. I pray that you walk with him. And I appreciate you guys for listening, and I will see you in the next episode.